Hello everybody and welcome to our next session being presented by the wonderful Richard James, who I actually had to harass. He's a very busy man and I approached him to present and he wasn't sure he could make it. I'm very grateful that he actually was able to find some time in his schedule. Richard worked at the Southport School. I mean to say the Scott School. Yes, that's what I was spoken of. He works at the Southport School in Queensland and Australia. They're a fantastic school up there. They have both Moodle and Mahara. But without wanting to steal any of Richard's thunder, I'll pass over on his session on ways that Moodle can change the classroom. Richard, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. Very kind. Do let me know if there's issues in the chat. Basically, what I'm going to present today is I'm going to present on some of the work that we've been doing in the classrooms of the Southport School. I've been director of e-learning here for the last 3.5 years, and we've come quite a long way. The original intention was to change the pedagogy, so that's really what I'm going to talk about today. Not using Moodle to make more efficient. That's the base assumption I'm starting from. Yeah, and that's really the reason I was asked to. These are the 5 ways that we're going to have a look at, and you'll note that these are not especially Moodle related. We chose, or the Southport School chose, Moodle before they hired me, so that was already their vehicle of choice. And it does all of these things, and it provides a nice framework as well. So there are lots of these things that can be done. Okay, I will drop the video. Yeah, my microphone's back on. Let me know if that's improved. I hope so. Anyway, yeah. So to get back to what I was saying, there are other tools that will do many of these things. So it's not necessarily all about Moodle, but that's the one that we use. These are the things I've heard. So the first one, real-time resources. I've heard people talk about books, pages, forms, glossaries, and so on. And the virtue of these is something that maybe is not immediately apparent, because, you know, why not just upload Word documents or PowerPoints or notes or whatever you're using and place those in the course instead. And certainly since Moodle 2.3, it's been a lot easier to do that, and it's been a lot easier to handle files that are in Moodle and replace them much easier. But with these resources, you can edit them right in the course, and as you'll hear from one of our teachers, that gives you the opportunity to not only edit your course in real time, but also to co-construct knowledge in the course with your students. So timely information, yep, edit there. You can also add to these real-time resources the activities such as chat sessions and voices, which will give you feedback when you need it. Just having a look here. This is an example of some ebooks that one of our teachers put together on a unit in English, Year 8 English. This was in fact on horror, which is a fairly popular topic with boys. I should perhaps. Southport School is an Anglican all-boys school. Year 8, so the beginning of senior school, and you can see forms, and the book is here. Here is its book, and you can see here that it's linked to other activities that are that are put in the course. For these tools, so it's okay. You can see here, for example, here's a link to an activity. So that's a fairly obvious view. So what I wanted to do is I wanted you to hear from a couple of teachers who've been using this course. In fact, this is not the course you just saw, but this is a course that we piloted at the end of last year, which is about a self-directed English course in Year 9 that these two teachers put together. They wanted to change the classroom. They wanted to change it from teacher transmission. They wanted to have a go at having the students finish activities in Moodle in the order which the students chose to do them. So I'm going to play a clip here through a player into the microphone. So the quality, the original recording quality wasn't that great because it was done in a classroom. So I do hope that this works. If this doesn't work, then we do have the audio clips available in the course. But have a listen to this anyway. So we'll hear from two teachers. First, we'll hear from Mr. Graeme Barber about what he did in English.
Self-directed course, and how have you found that so far? In terms of the whole course is designed to be self-directed, and all of the resources and the tasks are put on the Moodle so that the boys get access to them. We used an ebook, which I created, that all the 9 teachers made use of. So sorry if I can interrupt, how did you create that ebook? Moodle makes it quite easy, actually. Basically, click and click. I mean, if you want a new page for the book, you click on it. This is a new page. So use the book activity, book resource. Okay. So, I mean, just add a book and you just add page after page, and then you can add your resources or pictures or text, whatever you want to the page. As well as that, I created some quizzes, and the purpose of the quiz was to check the name from the ebook. So a page on the ebook might say, check this resource. It might be an online resource, and then in order to show the teacher that you have understood that information, go to this quiz and follow up a link to the quiz so they didn't have to leave the page.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that, Lynn and Anna. Thanks for the feedback. So what I've done, as you can see on the slide, I've put the main points that came from that slide. And as I've also said, the original clips are available in the corresponding course, so you can pick up some of that afterwards. And I'd just like to say about Graeme that he's quite senior, shall we say. He's certainly past retirement age, but so I tend to get annoyed when people say that that schools can't change because to change their ways. They're actually not usually. Just that perhaps in Graeme's case, he waited a while till he jumped into Moodle, because I think it is probably more than 40 years of teaching. Seen many fads come and go. So working with teachers of this kind, you've really got to get to them and show them that the boys value what they do. Okay. Now, when you hello. When you say that the quality was not good, could you hear anything at all? Sorry, Lynn's got too hard to hear. Not good. So maybe I'll skip the audio clips. Too quiet. Oh, I can turn the volume up. Okay, we'll try one more and we'll see how that goes. We'll hear from Dr. Jill. And if that's no good, that's okay. You'll just have to go and pick up the clips later on. And I've got the summaries on the slide, so you'll be able to read the summaries on the slides, and I'll give you the gist of what they said. But I actually think it's interesting to hear from the teachers if we can. So let me play another one. Okay, all right, good to know. But I'll see if we can do better with this one. It's a shame actually that you can't play audio in the system, but never mind. Work around. So I'm gonna try again with Jill. We'll see how we go.
An ebook for year 10, and I think the particular ebook that I was building was instead of using PowerPoints and instead of using Word docs, so I actually taught from the ebooklet, and according to what I taught and the information that was generated from the students in the classroom, I was actually able to update that ebook in the evening or the next day. And the fact that the ebook was actually able to be generated around the students' knowledge that we created in the classroom gave the students themselves a sense of ownership of that ebook.
Just to clarify, when you say that you taught from the ebook, what was the physical process there?
So the ebook, as Graeme mentioned, you build the ebook page by page as you want to.
In Moodle.
In Moodle, yeah. So we used it on screen in the classroom. You were able to build in some hyperlinks within the ebook very easily, and those hyperlinks we actually had connected to discussion forums.
Okay.
So the students were actually able to bring up the ebook themselves. They were actually able to look through the information that was being imparted to them, just as you would do teaching from a PowerPoint or a Word document that you placed on screen. They were able to, in class, click on the hyperlink and go straight through to make comments about the content that they were learning from within Moodle on a discussion forum.
Okay, we'll hear from some boys on that course a little bit later as to how they found the course and so on. But yeah, I think it's just good for you to hear the voice of the teacher there. So these two teachers worked pretty hard on the Year 9 course, and they're kind of driving it forward for us. There's a lot of pretty good work happening. So, moving on to number 2. This one is fairly obvious, of course, extend the learning. I mean, that's probably the reason that most people MS or a similar system or Google Docs or whatever going in the first place is so that they can extend the learning. But of course, we're talking about time and place. So we're talking about boys that may not even be in school. So and also we're talking about reaching students where they are and when they're ready. So we're talking about both the time and place. Out a little more with a couple of student quotes here to show you. This is loosely related to the last one. And let's have a listen to Greg and in.
Yeah, like we're doing it with English instead of watching the PowerPoint of what we're going to do. Writing down what's written up on the board, and he doesn't give us like PowerPoints that are moving that we can look over and stuff like that.
So if you don't get it in the lesson,
yeah,
you haven't got it, it's just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it's better to have nothing.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I blanked the subject deliberately in case you were wondering what iPad and moving the slides around at the same time. Not quite mastered the technology. Anyway, yeah. So look, I think you'll hear later on some comparison between what they were doing in other subjects and what they did. But definitely for our students, this was a big plus. And by the way, these clips that I'm playing, I had strung all of them together, probably about 12 minutes of audio of one sort and another, along with some video shots of the school and video shots of Moodle in use and some little clips and so on, and put together a 12-minute video at the beginning of this year to encourage the other staff to use Moodle. And I felt myself that that's been quite a powerful motivator this year. Just the fact that we had teachers and students talking together and addressing a whole staff meeting about how they enjoyed using Moodle, both from the teacher. I think if you're in a role where you're driving the process and you're driving some of the professional development, you'll find it's very, very useful to capture the thoughts of your leading teachers. Yeah, there's a graph actually, Lynn, in the course. You can see that there's been in fact, I might put it on a slide later on, so I'll get you there. We've seen in use more than double this year, but there are at least 3 factors there. Besides the video, which I do think was a powerful message to teachers who are not completely on board yet, and there was the BYOD program, and there was also we started a teacher audit as well. So maybe those 3 things combined have lifted the usage considerably. Okay, so both of these examples, as I've said before and as I've stressed before, some of our teachers like to use Google Docs. They find Moodle, if I may say so, a little bit clumsy. It's getting better all the time, I have to say. Some of our students have also been known to complain, that it doesn't look very nice. It's not quite as slick as some of the tools that they use, which is undeniably true. But for us as teachers and for them as students, it's the place. It's the place that they go. So this is a survey that I've just finished this week. Actually, I've got some more results in, but I don't think it's changed it tremendously. But you can see here that we are getting something like 80% of students accessing Moodle at least once a day across the school. So we're getting quite a lot of student use and student uptake. So yeah, students know to go there to look for things that they are supposed to know, and also activities that they are supposed to join in, as we'll see. Now we do have Mahara as well as Moodle. So Mahara is our e-portfolio. We have a quick link from Moodle. So it's mainly, we've taken a different approach with Mahara than we have with Moodle. We've allowed Mahara to grow organically. In fact, we had Julian in back in the beginning of 2010 to introduce us to Mahara, and he's very good, I will say. The teachers all liked that presentation. And from that small group, a handful of teachers decided to use Mahara, but we didn't want to push both Moodle and Mahara teachers at the same time. Perhaps we should have done, but for whatever reason, we decided that we would push Moodle. Everybody would have to get on board with Moodle, at least in some small way, but Mahara people could take it as they wanted to. So it's been used for page type assignments, those assignments that you can link through to a Moodle course, so you can submit a Mahara page as an assignment. In G&T, it's been used pretty extensively for reflective journals and so on, in the way that's intended to be used, really. What we haven't seen hardly any of, and I'm quite disappointed in this, is we have quite a lot of vet students. Probably 30% of our intake are vocational students rather than purely academic students. And I would have expected that our technology department would take more of an interest in portfolios of techniques like joinery or machine use and so on, and taking that forward. But it's been fairly scattered and thin, unfortunately. There we go. Can't do everything at once. Where Mahara is getting big use at the moment is in Mandarin, and we'll hear from 3 boys in year 8 again. It's quite funny. In our school, I can already see a generation gap. I can already see year 8, year 7 and year 8 taking to these tools in quite a big way. Whereas when you talk to years 11 and 12, they're actually, quite a few of them actually say, no, well, Moodle's okay, but, actually we prefer to do things on paper. It's quite interesting. Or do things using Word rather than do things in Moodle. Rather than respond to a forum, actually do term papers in Moodle. That may be because they're close to assessment. Who knows, right? But yeah, there's something of a gap there, and you can see this for me, or for our Chinese Mandarin teacher that I was speaking to only yesterday. She says this is the kind of work that in the old days they would have done in a year, and this is what they've done in less than 1 term. It's quite impressive the amount of work that they can do in Mandarin. The key point there is that they do not really use handwriting skills, and she doesn't really want them to use handwriting skills in Chinese. She doesn't see it as particularly relevant in modern China. So let's hear from these guys about their use of Mahara. I think this is quite interesting too. Maybe a little bit off topic, but it's still, it's always interesting to hear students up here.
So, let's start with Josh. Josh, tell us basically what have you been doing in your Mandarin lessons that's different this year?
We've been using Mahara, and that's new. And it makes it easier for us to make our pages.
Okay, how does it make it easier for you?
Well, it's pretty easy to drag in photos and writing and all those things.
Do you find it different to the work that you were doing last year?
Yeah, because we were only working on pen and paper last year.
Okay, and how does it compare to you working on the computer or working on Mahara as opposed to pen and paper?
I'd rather work on the computer because I think it's easier to get all the characters. And
okay, easier than writing it by hand. Yeah. Ethan, have you anything to add?
Different from last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same Mahara. It's a lot easier. It's like a blog where you can put photos and information on, and then your class teacher, grades you on it sometimes and tells you how your blog's going and what you need to improve on.
So why do you say that that's better than what you were doing last year?
Because a lot of the boys in the class feel more comfortable on their computers and like learning on their computers than textbook.
Okay. And Ab, how easy was it to pick up Mahara?
Oh, it's pretty easy. Like you don't. So you already have made an account when you have Moodle, and it's like it shows your understanding a bit more easy than like combining necessarily characters on pen and paper because you already have them on your Mac or Windows.
So what you're saying is that the page that you produce is perhaps better quality than the stuff you might have produced by hand before.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think boys are getting through a lot more work, and they seem to be a lot more engaged than perhaps they would have been if I'd talked to them last year. I find it seems unlikely that they will ever need to write Chinese characters unless they really up in a big way in terms of shall we say interacting in China. And obviously they'll be using devices like iPads and iPhones and devices to communicate if they need to communicate. Now, okay, social learning. Yeah, this as maybe it is just the topic of horror that appeals to boys, but I was absolutely blown away when I started to look, as I was preparing for this presentation, when I started to look at the social learning that's going on in our classrooms now that they're using these discussions in a meaningful way. If you look here, 620 unread posts. I mean, this is in like a week. It's incredible. And maybe 100 boys are taking part, maybe 100. Each or something. Of course, fairly well established now that the quality of writing improves once boys write for public consumption. But you can begin to see the use of high-level skills like analyzing a previous post to get the main points, drawing on that, and then building on that. And you can see that here in the next slide comes up, and you can see that they're actually doing stuff well outside classroom time. And if you look at this, I mean, for these boys are 12, 13 years old, and really our school has a pretty broad intake. It's not a selected school. We take anybody who'll pay, right, basically. We have a lot of boys from the country areas of Queensland, where, if I may say, the quality of the education may vary. Then, they may live a long way from school. They may not be able to get to school that often. So they have a very varied background, and yet the quality of the writing they're producing is outstanding. If you look at some of the other ones, I haven't put up, but some of them, the grammar and the spelling, the punctuation is much poorer than this. Still, you can see the thought process is working. You can see the same You can see the same engagement with the material. And I think, that is something with students. One another. Great, because very nice to be complimented by the teacher. I think I put something like that on my next slide. Yeah, it's nice. Okay. In the traditional classroom, the teacher sets me a writing task. I go home, I do the writing task, I give it back to the teacher, I get it back. It's got perhaps red pen, well, if the teacher's nice, green pen or blue pen or whatever, all over it. But it's still, I'm still looking at things that have been annotated on my work. In this new system, okay, I'm getting praise from my peers. I'm not just getting praise from the teacher. My peers are pointing out the good things I've done, and in some cases they're offering constructive criticism as well about my writing, about my spelling, about my punctuation. So I think, an ounce of praise from a fellow student got to be worth a ton of praise from a teacher, I would think. So, there's a lot going on with that. So if you can really get students interacting in forums, you know that the pedagogy is changing the classroom. You know that Moodle is changing the classroom for the better. I think these tips probably covered elsewhere, but I think it doesn't do any harm to remind ourselves. Okay, forums don't just happen. Yeah, when your teacher sets up a forum, they need to understand that onboarding, to use a gaming term, is required. Students don't want to see the first tasks as easy. Yeah? So in the gaming world, when you pick up, I don't know, a game like Plants and Zombies, you start very small and very simple, and it's very easy to do. And so you need to bring that same philosophy, I think, into Moodle. And this is one of the problems with courses that are overloaded with content or hard to understand, or the forums start with a complex question. This is a problem for boys. It's just daunting, and they don't want daunting. They want easy to start with, and then once you've got them in, and you can make the tasks a little harder as you go. This is all part of the gaming, if you like, gaming. That works. Okay. Teachers have got to be active. A lot of our teachers are considering this and saying, yeah, but, so what am I doing now? So I'm spending time at home, intervening in a forum at 9 o'clock in the evening. What's happening to my leisure time? Okay, that's something that I think we need to look at. Perhaps the redistribution of time there. And of course, we have to let them. We have to teach them the basic rules of respect, digital citizenship, if you will. And they pick that up pretty quickly. That's pretty easy for them to understand because it's direct parallel with the way they behave with each other in the classroom and around the campus and wherever they are. So they know how to behave. You don't have to hammer it in, but you do need to keep an eye on it. Okay. Student autonomy. Okay. Student autonomy, I think, we've seen from the self-directed courses that we're running and some of the other ways in which our classrooms have changed, in which students are at least taking part in some of the decisions about their own learning, is very, very powerful. So we've got many of these tools built into Moodle that we can use, like the gradebook, like completion status, like self-access and self-directed courses. So that students go look, they can see, they get the feedback on how they're doing, they can see how they're progressing in a course. It ties in very, very neatly with our BYOD program, and you'll hear a student on that subject as well in a minute or two. If they've got their own devices, they can use them more effectively than a device that the school might hand out. And of course, a school device is something from school. It's not so important to them as stuff that they have. So I think the idea that they tie their learning to the fact that it's their device, I think that's a significant factor in BYOD programs. The other thing, which is a little bit off topic, but I think it's worth mentioning, the other thing about a BYOD program is that teachers can no longer teach to the tool. we say time and time and time again, and it's a mantra. We should focus on the learning and not the technology. Julian says there's no such thing as e-learning. There's only learning, and I agree with that, and I know that, and I think I've internalized that. But I do find myself, and I do find teachers coming back to mastery of tools. So once teachers learn how to use PowerPoint, somehow, some way, they want to teach PowerPoint instead of their subject. So they start to put things about how PowerPoint should be used in their assignments, right? So okay, you're doing an art assignment, so or you're doing a life and faith assignment, and you've got to use a PowerPoint, and you've got to embed a video. We see criteria like this coming into subjects, and you go, and it's just not. It's not what I want. It's not what we want. And of course the same danger does exist with Moodle. All right, we've got to always pull back and think, no, it's not the tool. Okay, it is the learning. But it's all of us, I think, suffer from this. I think most of the people here at this conference are probably Moodle fans. I know that I am. So every once in a while, you do have to pull back and say, okay, it's not about Moodle. Not everything has to be done in Moodle. Not everything has to be done in PowerPoint. And the BYOD helps with this. I think more about the learning and think less about what's the actual technology that's in use. Okay, so let's hear a bit more from students. Not much activity. Have any questions? Don't hesitate to drop them in, and I'll explain this.
Well, in term 4, we've been using Moodle by ourselves. Mr. Barber's just been telling us what we're going to do. Then we just go ahead and use Moodle.
Okay, how do you like that?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's much more easier.
It's easier than?
Having like Mr. Barber show us everything on the board, when we can just go ahead and do it all in one class.
So you like the freedom to? Yeah. Can you choose the bits that you do? I mean, how self-directed is it?
It's all self-directed.
What about the devices? How do you find that? Have you found it easier than, say, working in a computer lab? Or? Yeah.
Much easier because, like, you can direct yourself by yourself. Like, you can research on your own, and you don't have to use a computer that everyone else is using. If you have your own device, you probably know it better as well.
Okay, so you can make more use of it.
Yeah. So I think you can. Those are not the whole clips I collected, but I didn't want to make the presentation overly long. But yeah, the general gist of it is that the boys are really using these devices for learning. I also did ask them, incidentally, about game playing and distraction in the classroom, and obviously not them, but I said not you, but how about your colleagues? And they one of the quotes that they came up with was, "It's a lot less than you think," particularly if the teacher is monitoring the classroom well, and particularly if you want to get a good grade and things like that. So I think there was a lot of worry around how this would pan out in the classroom, whether they would all be sitting up the back playing games and the teacher would manage it, and so on and so forth. But that's worked out a lot better. That's been one of the fears that didn't really develop to any great extent within our school. They've got used to the idea now. So where are we now? Okay, so if we're going to take this a little bit further, we also want to bring in parents to support their boys, to support their children. So we want them to be able to look at what the boys are doing, want them to be able to view the grade books and completion reports for their boys. And I'm pretty sure Vinny has done a pretty good job in the last session, which unfortunately I wasn't in for, but I will certainly hear the repeat. About roles and about the mentor role and about letting parents in to have read-only access to grade books and completion reports. We're currently using a workaround, which is just a basic PHP page that allows parents to pop in a 6-digit student ID, and then which all our students use and all our parents know. And then to get a listing of assignments for all of the different courses that we have. This is just a single, simple PHP page that I wrote to rip stuff out of the database. If I was to rewrite it now, and if I was to have the time, I would probably use web services for this. Or even better, I would persuade the school to part with some money and get somebody to write it for me, to write something like this for me. But I think with web services now, if I'm not mistaken, you can pull the assignments out of courses as well and display them on things like mobile phones. So getting the information out on students' progress to parents, I think is going to be a thing too. I've made the point in a couple of discussions that I've heard on the iMoot that 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds really probably on balance don't like school all that much, most of them. So it's not like adult education, or it's not even like university education. These students don't always see the value in experimental cooling, or whatever is written here. Yeah, so scale and measurement. So they sometimes need encouragement from their teachers and from their parents as well. And sometimes it needs to be pointed out to them by their parents and their teachers. They're actually going somewhere with this stuff, and it's actually going to be later on down the road. So I think there is a slightly different flavor here with school students than with older students. And I think there's a lot of tertiary activity here. But I guess Moodle is growing in schools, and I guess we'll see more of these things coming up. So on that basis, really, the fifth thing that I think Moodle is bringing to us, is bringing to the teachers, is some kind of guidance. Students, this is not student-centered, this is centric pretty much, although, of course, students can get access to their own completion reports, but the teacher can use them to just to keep an eye on the class. And these tools are extremely useful. So if you don't have course completion enabled across your site, your administrators disabled it for some strange reason best known to themselves, I strongly suggest you twist their arm, or even better, take them out for a glass of wine and a nice meal, and persuade them to put this completion tracking on. And I suggest also that you show the teachers how to use it, or persuade the teachers that it's a useful tool for them. And we can see here pretty clearly that 106849 probably needs a bit of a kick. In fact, a bit of a kick looking at it again. So yeah, at the very least, our teachers can use this to get a measure of the effort that our students are putting in, and if necessary, report that back to either mentors or parents. So these course completion, I think, is going to be quite an interesting development. And I think monitoring of student progress. Yeah, we're all about data now, so data-driven decision making. And here it is in practice, right? Here it is embedded into Moodle. I have the data on what the students do. I want to make use of it. I want to make use of it to see how my students are tracking. I don't want to make use of it to see how my course resources are being used. So I want to know if people are looking at the BBC Skillwise site. I want to know, well, I could say I know why nobody's done task 2 yet, because it's not due yet. Have a look at some of these things. Which are the popular resources, not because we want to take them out, but because we want to ask ourselves, did we stress it enough? Did we not mention it all? Did we make clear the purpose of going to that particular BBC website, so we can monitor what we're doing in the course as well as teachers? I thought you might be interested to see students use our system for, and you can see here that we're on the road, and you can see that we're not there yet. You can see the transmission stuff, right? So you can see checking on homework, you can see looking for resources, big, yeah? but okay, growing. Posting to forums. I mean, 32%. I think is pretty good. You know, I guess our aims could be described as modest, but I see that as something you can build on. 30%. If we've got 3% or 10%, that's difficult to build on. But if we've got 32% across the school already using forums on a regular basis, I think that's quite good. All right. So the others again. So we come back now. The quizzes, a lot of those will be self-help quizzes. They won't be for grading purposes. They will just be for student self-testing purposes. Because we still do a lot of our assessment by hand. We still have to. And work set by the teacher. So schoolwork, and then 3% using Mahara for social activities. Poor. But never mind. Okay. Browsing, just browsing. 1 in 5 of our students goes to Moodle for a browse. Anyway, showing my parents what I'm doing at school, and so on. Yeah, sending messages. The messaging system is getting a reasonable amount of use, more than I expected, really. And I've had a look at the messages because Moodle provides that facility for you to scan through the messages and make sure that things that are being said are reasonably appropriate. And yeah, they're messages about work. Sorry, sir, I forgot to write down, what the homework was, and teacher advised, well, I have a look on Moodle, okay? Go to the course and click in it and have a look there. And so on. Yeah, you can see that. So then there's 12% things. I don't know what those were. I haven't really collected. So this is, this is how we're doing. This is how we've been tracking over the last 3 years. So see there, 2010 it was introduced. The first year, we got a reasonable amount of use, but the first year it's designated as I was told only to work with the willing during that first year, 2010. 2011, okay, was our year of e-learning, was our push for e-learning, so we saw it grow there. Last year was about disseminating skills through faculties by using e-learning leaders, and I talked more about that, and I provided a link. I talked more about that at the New Zealand Moodle Moot, and I provided a link to my presentation there, also here on iMoot, so you can see what the e-learning leaders was about too, about e-learning leaders in faculties, and that produced a reasonably healthy boost, I would say. Just looking at it, something like a 50% boost in the use there at the first blue arrow, and then this year more than doubled, in that first term peak. That it's gone up considerably. Now, some of that's got to be BYOD, some of that's got to be, more access, so they don't have to go to labs, so they've got devices with them all the time, so they can jump on any time, and they can do forums in the classroom, they can do quizzes in the classroom, and other activities and so on. In the senior school, there are about 850 students across the whole school. There's another 400 in our prep school, but our prep school don't use Moodle. In fact, they don't do very much with e-learning at all. So about 800 students, of which I think probably 250 of those are senior boarders, maybe 200, 250 are senior boarders. So boys from rural Queensland typically. And you can see the Mahara stats. Mahara, we only get them for 6 months. But it's growing steadily. And organically, and that's the way that we want to do it, really. So, well, you've got 1335 users there. So, that's Mahara users. Sorry, Mahara is used in the prep school. So I'm currently working with both Year 2 and Year 4 on various projects related to Mahara, research projects. So that gives you a feel for the total number of users we've got across the school, 35 there, 850, 900. Mahara is pretty small. It's going. Familiarity first. Now, what do I see as our biggest current problems? These are the ones. We have a lot of good stuff going on when I do the audit. As I've talked a little about the audit in the New Zealand Moot, and with the audit we have a set of criteria, levels 1, 2, 3 for teachers, and then level 4 for would-be Moodle admins and so on. So 1, 2, 3, level 1 you're just loading resources, level 2 you're probably adding a forum or a quiz or something, some level of interaction, and then 3 you're moving into social learning. So 1, 2, 3, and we have something like 10% 3, maybe 20% at 2, maybe 30% at 1. Yeah. Of the teachers I've audited so far. I wish I put that on the slide now. But the point is, as I sit down with them, I go through what they are doing with Moodle. I also talk to them about the other things that they're doing outside Moodle, like if they're using Google Docs or they're using Scribbler in maths, or they found a good iPad application for this, that, or the other. So, and you know, we've actually got a teacher who's investigating the idea of leaderboards for classroom behavior, which I think is quite nice, but nobody except me and that teacher knows that it's going on. So nobody is able to build on that. And this is, we at the same time, you know, we pay quite a lot of money to people to come in from outside and speak to the whole staff, and really sometimes, you know, you just go, is that money well spent? I'm not sure. Okay, it's well spent on the consultant, isn't it, Julian? You know, it's nice, but you know, at the same time, I don't know that it's driving change in our school necessarily. So what I've said, and I don't know if this would be taken up to senior management, I said, look, you know, why don't you just ban external speakers for a year? You know, and why don't you just get the teachers to show the other teachers what they're doing? Why don't we break them out of these silos? Why don't we give them opportunities to talk about what they're doing in their classroom, with or without Moodle? I don't care if it's Moodle, I don't care if it's Google, I don't care if it's paper-based. You know, it doesn't, whatever they're doing, we need to share that more during the, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so much knowledge in our school. There's so much embedded, you know, so much good practice, so many how to do things well. The teacher I talked about, who's past retirement, has developed a beautiful system of spelling to help boys, which is a manual system, which he made a narrated PowerPoint about. And you know, no other English teacher actually, when I talk to them, they don't know about the system that he uses. Yeah. Well, we are doing an audit. Yeah, we're doing an audit. That's what I'm doing at the moment. So that's where this silo is coming out at me and leaping out at me. Yeah. So the audit says these are the criteria, you know, for a Moodle course. And look, these are the learning pathways you can adopt. And look, here's some online resources. Or, yeah, look, why don't you book some time with me next week? You want to learn about the grade book? Yeah, we'll do that. So the audit isn't only about appraisal. The audit isn't for me anyway, although the head of department does get a copy of the audit. And I say to the teacher, look, this is between you and them as to whether it's used for appraisal or not. What I'm about is showing you something new that you can do in Moodle. So as part of that audit process, I will say, look, you know, let's set a learning pathway. You want to learn to do a quiz. Okay, we'll make a time next week. We'll sit down for an hour and I'll show you how the quiz works, and we'll take it from there. So I'll come into your class and your teachers, talk to your students about how to use Mahara and create a page. So yeah, so that's all part of the audit. The audit's not just about blame. Yeah, but I do have support of the executive. I've been here 3.5 years, and for the first time 2 weeks ago, the headmaster noticed that we had Moodle, and he asked me in to explain what it was doing, and I showed him some of the things that I've showed you here. And at the next staff meeting, he was kind of full of praise. And yeah, because I'm sitting there thinking, 3.5 years, okay, good. They finally got the message. Yeah. So yeah, you just got to keep going at it, right? Teacher time. Teachers never have enough time, and if they do have enough time, we better give them something to do. Okay? All right. So management, I think I said this in another forum somewhere, management sees teacher time as risk. Yeah, so teachers got too much time on their hands. The devil makes, work for idle hands to do. I don't know what they're thinking, something like that. They're thinking that teachers won't use that time usefully if I give it to them. They'll be nicking off down the pub or something. But yeah, so that's really that's a hard sell. And of course it does cost money. You give teachers time for PL, you've got to find more teachers. So that does cost money. But then how do you change? If you always do what you do, they say, right? You'll always get what you've got. So anyway, and I see this cultural problem looming of the time allocation. Intervention in a forum takes time and effort, and it takes time out of your leisure time, okay? But can you use Moodle to balance that equation by doing less marking, by automating some of the process? Yeah, so I think you can, but these are common problems everywhere, and if they had simple solutions, somebody would have already solved them. Transition. I'm leaving. I'm going back to New Zealand, so I'm leaving next month. They won't have anybody in term 2. My idea is to transition to teaching staff. So my view is we don't need an e-learning specialist. People across the organisation oppose that very strongly, and I think they will end up appointing an e-learning specialist for the beginning of 2014. At what level in the organisation? So those are things that they've got to decide. I mean, IT will take on a lot of what I've been doing this last 3 years. We've got a new IT guy who's really hot, who'll do the upgrades, who can do code tweaks and stuff like that. So that's great. So that'll take, we didn't have anybody else in the school that could do that. We have these people like Dr. Jill, you saw there, who are experts in pedagogy, who can certainly take on the training and the assistance and so on. And we have people who could do the administration tasks, which are reasonably trivial, but do need to be done, I feel, by an educator and not by a technologist. Yeah, and at what level does this person sit in the organization? Because if you want people to change, okay, all right. All right, well, okay, it's, and okay, at what level in the organization? Obviously, I would like to see the higher the better. It depends how much change you want. Where I sit in the organization at the moment, I'm not a threat to anybody. So I can't go to a teacher and say, this has a huge impact on your future career at the school if you don't do what I'm asking you to do with Moodle. Right? They go, ha ha. Right. So you do need somebody with some clout. So that's I think that's the way I see the challenges. There are other schools handling this in other ways. We looked at what other ISQ schools are doing. Queensland, most of the independent schools in Queensland do have some kind of technology specialist, even if they're not full time. Yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. And I'll play you one last clip. You've been very patient. If you've got time, have you got time for one last clip? End up or something. Please, aren't you? Not even there. Good. Mic open. You about to speak? No. I'll play one last clip anyway. Ask me questions if you got it lined up, so I might as well.
And last year, do you see a difference in the way the Moodle's being used this year?
It's changed in English and science and life and faith a lot, because science was a lot out of the book. Life and faith was just watching movies. Moodle, we're doing more in life and faith, like more assignments and stuff.
Find that better than what you were doing before?
Yeah, because it's more there's more stuff to do.
Have you used Moodle in last year? Have you seen a change this year, or?
I wasn't here but last year, but it's changed since term 1 this year as well.
Yeah.
They've gotten better, and the assignments have gotten more interesting and stuff. If they're on Moodle, and you can change them and you get research and stuff.
What makes an assignment more interesting, Patrick?
If you have the opportunity to do it like your own way instead of doing it the way that everyone else is doing it.
I don't really think so. Well, I mean, and did you use Moodle or something similar in a previous talk?
No, it was just all out of the book.
All out of the book. So. Yeah. And what do you think about it?
It's a lot better than out of the book. It's a lot faster, being able to type, and also on Moodle, Mr. Barber narrates a slideshow for us, so like you get lessons at home.
He talks over the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And you like that?
Yeah, it was really good.
It's good to hear the teacher.
There was a thing in English that I wasn't really understanding, and that was dialogue, and I was just able to watch the narration, the narrated PowerPoint over and over until I eventually understood it.
Okay, so there you have it. Wonderful world of Moodle, and I think if there are no questions, yeah. Done, Julian. Julian's gone walkabout. I can hear somebody faintly. I don't know who it is. Okay, welcome. I hope you got something out of it. Very quiet. Yeah, interesting. They are. It's a fascinating world. I was talking to my granddaughter, talking Skype, and you know, for me that's magic. That's really crazy stuff. So I don't know where this stuff is going, but I know it's going change really, really, really fast. Where we might be headed. Welcome, Andrew. My contact details are in the course. If you email me later or talk later. Yes, Lynn. There are some things you can do to speed it up. So perhaps you want to look at some of the stuff. Yeah, there are. Yeah, believe it or not, there are some things you can do. And I would say that one of the chief ones is let the teachers hear the voices of your students who are in your, in your courses where your leading teachers are, or your leading trainers, or whatever sort of organization you have, or your school, you're in school. Yeah, so if you've got a teacher that's doing really, really good work somehow, and the students are really, really appreciating it, you've got to get that out. Shoot the Executive is a good one. Unfortunately, they tend to send you to prison for that sort of thing, so you can't really do much from prison. Yeah. And moving schools is not going to help your school either, but there you go. Sometimes it happens. Yeah, I would say get that student voice out there to the teachers, because when, most teachers, fairly reasonably, when they understand that Moodle is maybe not just another fad, and they understand that students appreciate what they do and it improves their learning, and I do think you will get some response if you can get that message. Yeah. Not. No. Okay. Well, we did a mix of different things. I mean, in 2011, which we made the era of e-learning, we did a lot of internal marketing. And I think that's really, really important. I think, you've got to prepare people for any kind of change. And I think, we even put brochures out, right? I mean, printed brochures, which seems counterintuitive for an e-learning specialist, but, put them in the staff room and just have interesting, responses from boys, or what's this Moodle thing all about, or how can I use it, or how does it improve what I'm doing? And we did, I think we did, we got a graph, we did 12 different kinds of PL. Yeah, and Stuart, you got an open mic. Okay, all right, gotcha. Yeah, and I think what was I saying? Yeah, we did lots of different kinds of PL to see which one could stick. And I think that's a good thing to do as well, because that varies from organization to organization. So in other places I've been, like the early morning session or the wine and cheese and Moodle session works really well. And it didn't work at all at our place because teachers do a lot of extracurricular. We're quite big into sports and other forms of extracurricular. So that just didn't work in our place. So, try different things and see ones to work. Yours is the only subject I'm using for technology. Get them to speak on camera and show that to the other teachers. I think it will get people come to you. Yeah. Oh, come on. Okay, there you are. No, I mean that 70-year-old teacher that I have in my place. Yeah. Okay. We did a survey, and one of the questions we asked was, how many teachers have been in our school 25 years or more? And 60% of the teachers at our school have been there 25 years or more. So, stuck in the mud, not necessarily, they're hard to move, but they're not impossible to move. And there was virtually no educational technology in non-tech subjects when I arrived at the school in 2010. So 3 years, 3.5 years, it's been a long journey. It's taken a long time. If I may ask, Lynn, how long have you been at it? Yes, Andrew, they are. Yeah, sorry, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, move on. Who am I to give you advice? Nobody at all. I was in a school for 2 years in China. They asked me to come in and introduce Moodle across the board. I did that. I set it all up. I did the teacher training, very much what I did here at TSS, but the executive didn't back me, and basically it fell over after 2 years. And I just got fed up and left. So, yeah. If you haven't got the backing of the executive, Beijing, College, Beijing, out in Xunyi, the airport. Anyway, so that was really a waste of my time. I wasn't bitter about it because I always wanted to see China, but yeah, I've had much more success here because I put that down going in. I said if I haven't got executive support, I'm not coming. And I think that's the. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Your principal doesn't value as much as other schools do. Lynn, what can I tell you? Kind of sad. Well, maybe get staff at the other schools to ring up your principal. Internal marketing. Somehow. Yeah, so go home at the end of the day and have a time around, eh? Okay. Being back. More questions? Oh yeah, you're most welcome, Lynn. And I wish you all the best.